Good morning. Hey, my name is Randy Simpkins, Anchor, my trail name. I wanted to share with you a little bit more this morning about myself. Some friends of mine were encouraging me to share a little bit about my backstory, why I'm doing this hike. Today's December 4th. 4 weeks from today, I'll be starting my through hike from Springer Mountain on January 1st. Super excited about that. Anchor Hikes, by the way, is my YouTube channel, and I encourage you to join me on YouTube or Facebook, either one. But I wanted to share a little bit about something that happened back 20-something years ago that sort of set me on the path to where I am now. I'm a bivocational pastor. I have a family business, and I also pastor a church, which I've been doing for 6 years now. And I love my church family, and I'm going to miss them so much. So I wanted to share a little bit about what happened. Mentioned that I had a family business. My dad and I, we have a utility contracting company. My dad's retired, and now I'm just tickled to death to be able to do that with my 3 boys. They're all in their 20s now. But I learned a lesson March 31st of 2000 that I think a lot of us can learn from, and it changed the trajectory of my life. You see, I was a workaholic dad. I worked 6 days a week, and frankly, even on Sundays, I led the music at my church, and I was involved in a lot of committees, and church had sort of become like a job to me. So we hadn't gone on any family vacations. I worked all the time, so that was my focus, and I thought my way to provide for my family was to provide money. So there was a distance between my wife and I that I didn't even realize. And so she had finally talked me into going on our first vacation since our youngest had been born. He was 2.5 years old. And through the course of getting ready for that vacation, I was supposed to put him in the van. And I decided to go in the house. He was riding his tricycle out in the yard. And we live on an 80-acre farm, so I wasn't concerned about that. He did that frequently. So I went in the house for just a few minutes while she was packing up to check some work emails. And I came back out, and his tricycle was there, but he wasn't. Make a long story short, Joe disappeared and was missing for about 8 hours. The community turned out in force. The Atlanta community, law enforcement from Carrollton, Georgia, and the surrounding areas for a massive search with hundreds of people, helicopters, ATVs, and dogs. And through those 8 hours, I lost faith that I would find my son. Through a succession of several miracles, Joe was found 1.5 miles away in the woods, and he was fine. The story of the man who found Joe, that's a whole nother story. There were so many miracles involved with that day, but what I wanted to share with you, the end result was I realized my priorities were all out of whack. Several years later, I should say as a result of that, I became a whole different person, and it took time for me to grow. But I became a better father, and I think a better husband, and I certainly had a stronger relationship with my Lord. And so I'm thankful that I learned those lessons while my boys were still 7, 5, and 2 years old. I've been able to interact with them and still do in a major way. And I hope I've been a better servant to the Lord and a husband to my wife. But those things became important to me. Years later, I was a county commissioner, a local politician, about 8 years later, and some guys were doing a film in our town. They came from California, and they were doing a film, and I was helping them find some locations. And they said throughout the course of the day, you don't seem like a politician at all. And I said, thank you. And they said, how'd you get involved in politics? And I said, well, I can never pay my community back for what they did for me. And they said, what are you talking about? So I shared that story with them. A long story, a little bit shorter. Throughout the course of that time, about a year later, they came back to me and they said, we can't get that story out of our mind. And we think that's a testimony that needs to be shared with other people. And so my wife and I were very reluctant. I was not a good father, a good husband. So I didn't really want to share that with the whole world or whoever saw our story. So we were kind of opposed, especially my wife, because Crystal felt, she felt failure. She shouldn't. I was the one who lost Joe, but she felt bad about the whole situation, and we weren't in a good place in our marriage then, even though I didn't realize it until much later. But we got to thinking, and we thought about the times that we shared our testimony with other people and how it's impacted them. And we thought, we all have stories, and we all have responsibilities to share our stories with other people of how we've grown through that. And so we agreed that if they wouldn't change the story, then we would allow them to film it. And they did. That was back in 2008. And Lionsgate released it. It's a movie called The Way Home. And I share that with you because my mistakes may be able to help someone else on down the road that is dealing with the same things and misunderstanding priorities. Well, back in February, as I shared on my other little introduction video, if I'm fast forwarding to now, I've just felt a calling. I don't know why, to do this hike and to start it earlier. I just felt a calling to do that, and back in February of this year, Crystal encouraged me to do it, and so I did. I made that decision after prayer and talking to my family, and so I don't know whose paths I'm going to cross, what I'm going to learn from the community, but I'm so excited about it. And tomorrow morning I'll be preaching. Tomorrow's December 5th, and I'll be preaching on John the Baptist as we talk about Advent season. And I find it interesting. John the Baptist was someone that spent a lot of time in the wilderness, and I think it's in Luke chapter 1. In Luke chapter 1, the latter verses, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it says that towards the end of that chapter, it says that when he came out, he was in the wilderness until he made his first public appearance, and that he became spiritually strong through that process. So I want to encourage those that are hiking, and I'm praying and ask for your prayers for myself too. Just like Paul, after he was converted, he met Jesus on the road to Damascus. He went and spent several years in the wilderness, in the desert, as he rethought his belief system and he grew spiritually. Likewise, John the Baptist, before he started his ministry, God brought him to the wilderness and he became spiritually strong. So no matter what your beliefs are, as you get ready for this hike, for those who are section hiking, day hiking, or whatever, I just find such peace in God's creation. So I encourage you to keep your eyes open, not just for snakes and roots and rocks, but keep your eyes open to what God is going to show you through this hike, through this experience. Whether you're actually on the hike or just going through the journey of life, keep your eyes open and be open to change, because God will show himself to all of us in our own way. So have a blessed day. This is Anchor, and I hope you'll join me. I'll be doing my YouTube thing. And don't expect high quality videos. That's not my goal. My goal is to be able to document the journey that my family and I can enjoy a long time from now. It's also to allow people who don't have the ability to hike the trail to be able to enjoy that with me and for themselves, and see the beautiful sights of creation. But it's also an opportunity just to share my reflections and what God lays on my heart. So I pray that you'll take the opportunity to share your thoughts with me in your comments and even questions. And so I hope to learn from your comments and grow myself, and maybe that God will reveal something to you through me as well on this journey. So join me along. It's Anchor Hikes. I ask that you will like and subscribe and share so that others can enjoy this testimony. So we'll see you on down the trail.